Oh, I love getting this question about how I got into esports. Back in the day, when I was a wee 10-year-old child, I played this game called Maple Story. And on that game, I made friends with this girl called Lena. And over the years, we became really good friends. And one day, when I was about 6, 7 years older, I see a post on Reddit, and it says, TSM Lena, who is Reginald's new girlfriend. And I was like, can't be the Lena I know. Surely I would have heard at this point. Turns out it was her, and we kept in touch for a while, and I hadn't really planned on getting into esports at the time. Like, I was planning on getting computer science, getting into game dev, and being a programmer. But as went on, like, I was in the middle of university, I needed a part-time job, and I was talking to Lena absentmindedly during New Year's, and I was saying I was looking for a part-time job, and she said, "What can you do?" I said, "I can write and I can program." And she's like, "We need one of both. Which would you prefer?" And I said, "I'll be a writer, I guess." And so I started writing part-time for them. And it was just contract work, really. They'll need something like a PR announcement, something to write out, and then they'll pay me for it. And that's what happened. And then when I graduated uni, I was like, well, I'm looking for a full-time job. Like, it doesn't have to be with you guys, but if you have a position that you thought I could fill, like, feel free to send it to me. And that's essentially what happened. So in 2018, I started working full-time for TSM, got put into content, did a lot of solo content producing, and a lot of it has been just learning on the job, learning from people who've been there longer, who've learned more than me. And it's been a very interesting past few years, I'd say. I think it really depends on how the titles evolve, and which titles get big. Like, for example, when Fortnite hit in 2018, everyone thought that was going to be around for years, but it's sort of like petering off due to sort of the management of the scene. And not to criticize Epic, but obviously there were some things that could have been done to sort of keep the pro talent and viewership. I think right now, the advent of mobile esports, actually, that's been growing really fast. I believe China and India have huge markets for that. So I think maybe that bit of the industry is going to get a lot larger in the next few years. In terms of conventional titles like League of Legends, I think Valorant right now is going to be huge. I think in pretty much just internationally, I feel like when you talk about a big title, it's always going to be international. You can't have a big esports title and not have it be popular in at least 2 or 3 major regions. Like, you're going to need at least North America, Europe, and South America at the very least, or like Asia on its own can drive an esports scene for years, like we saw with StarCraft. So I think it's going to be there. I think video games are here to stay. Like, everyone, especially since the pandemic, they all know. Everyone knows video games are a good way to spend your time. So I think whenever there's been a popular game, everyone's always been interested who's the best. And that's what esports tends to provide. Yeah, I've had a small look around the facilities. I do think they're really cool. I'm comparing it to all the different universities that I've seen and been to. I think it's very modern and a lot newer than what I'm used to. Went to university for computer science, so like I'm familiar with that, but I think all the tech I've seen here has been a lot better than what was offered at the time. Obviously, this was years ago now, and it's crazy to see how much they've grown. In terms of what's been offered, I think, to me, like, the core of any education program, any university, any school, it's always the students. If you can get a good group of students, people who are motivated to try their hardest, that's how you know your school's going to succeed. And from the talk I just gave, and like how all the students, they've sort of jumped at just given tasks, like they're hungry to prove themselves. They all really want to do what they want to follow their dreams. They want to chase this, and I think that's wonderful. I think that's probably the best thing you could ever ask for in any education. Well, first of all, I think I already did my whole spiel earlier, telling them relationships are everything, reputation's everything, especially when you're in an industry that you have to get in it basically as a freelancer or just through knowing somebody. It's always best to have somebody who's impressed by you, someone who knows you and remembers your face. And I think if that's what you want to succeed, just being a genuinely good person, like someone who other people are happy to work with and you'll be fine, I think. It's a lot of hard work as well, obviously, but I think it's more important that you know how to conduct yourself and how to build these relationships, because if you don't, all the hard work in the world isn't going to save you. I think personally it's very important to pursue something that you genuinely care about, like something that is at your deepest core, like a part of you. Not because you should make every hobby or every passion into your career, but at the very least it's how you grow well as a young person, I think. If you jump into something that you're really passionate about, you're going to put yourself forward more. You might burn yourself out. You might, run into a lot of troubles, like financially. You might struggle. You're going to struggle. And I think something a lot of people don't tell you these days is that's a good thing. It's a good thing to struggle. It's not a good thing to, set yourself on fire just to chase your passion, but it's a good thing to know what hardships there are in life and being able to improve yourself to face that. And I think if you're really into esports, you're really passionate, I think it's a wonderful space for that to happen. With that being said, if money or if having a stable life or if a family, if these are things that are all at your core what you want in life, buying a house, I think esports is a little bit more difficult to achieve those things. But if you believe in yourself enough and you really work at it and you really show how good you can be, I would wager that most people will be able to reach that. I think it's a really cool concept, and at the very core, it's good to give students a chance to work with technology that you can't really work with anywhere else. That was one of the big parts of my computer science degree, in terms of doing cool things, and it was definitely one of the most memorable parts of it. And yeah, I'm hoping to see how it turns out. I'm hoping that it goes well and some students get a really good experience out of it. I would say it depends on what you have in mind for this esports arena or something, because you never want to start out too big, right? If you build a stadium for 30,000 people and you only get 500 people coming in every day, that's not probably the best use of money, and I think probably not the best. But if you manage to get a nice small facility that you're able to fill up every time there is an event, I think that's huge, because then it gives the sense that there's great grassroots movement going on. It gives the sense that you're building a community, you're fostering this growth, you're providing things within the space that I think are sorely needed. And I think in that regard, it's pretty important. Yeah, I guess for me, it's just are you expecting to be La Scala in Paris where, they sell out all-stars, or if you're expecting to have a nice theater of 500,000 people coming in for a nice big final or something, then it's completely different stories. Honestly, I've been in terms of people I've liked to work with, so I've already worked with a lot of really big names at TSM. Something I've been trying to swindle out of the company actually is I've been trying to get a free coaching session from Hikaru Nakamura for chess, but I don't think that's actually going to happen because the time zones are too different. I would say in terms of, I think right now my deepest curiosity of working in the industry in terms of content is I really want to know how 100 Thieves has been doing their content and how they've what their processes are, what their pipelines are, because they've been so strong in the last year and a half. And I'd like to see if they're doing something really special, or if it's just they bought all the influencers and that was what did it. I feel like I already answered this earlier. I said Witcher 3. I think Witcher 3 Blood and Wine, on a whole, it's already a really good game, but I'm a person who really enjoys like fantasy, fairy tales, all these sort of things. And I just thought the way the writers and the quest writers and just how everything was built in that one like specific DLC, I thought was quite possibly like one of the most well done, well thought out, and most like there's just so much love that's been put into it. And I genuinely believe that's going to be one of the things where it'll be 40 years from now, I'm going to have played like every new Elden Ring, every like Horizon Forbidden West that's come out, and I'll look back at this and I'm like, yeah, but did it make me feel the same way I felt when I entered that fairy tale book, and there was just like all these monsters and stuff that just were left there, like Rapunzel, who wasn't addressed, became a wraith, like that part still to date, I'm just like, that's amazing. My favorite thing I've done in esports so far was writing the TSM LCS franchising application. So few people in this world must have seen like what the franchising process must have been like. And I was this kid who just finished university at the time, and I was like in the middle of like this Mass Effect 3 run, and I get this message from Lena, and she's like, I have something important for you to work on. Can I get you on this? And it turns out I was literally writing the application, like everything that Riot was asking for from TSM. Well, not everything, but like I'd say like 60 to 70% of it. And I was given like all this history. I was talking to Dan Din, Andy, Lena about everything that needed to go into the application, future planning, just how much that was going into like the organization and running of TSM. And that was really, really cool. And I remembered writing this one thing, because at the time, it was 2016. TSM had like 50, it had like, I swear to God, we'd won like 5 or 6 like LCS titles at that point. And one of the questions in the application was, why should we let TSM into the LCS? And I wrote, a lot of teams like to think they're the best. Unlike those teams, we're actually the best. And I sent that forward, and like they just loved it. And I was like, I don't think I'll write anything that good for a few more years, but that was good. That was my favorite moment. I think industry weeks are probably some of the most important weeks in most university things. You go to like higher education, right? And you can just go to all the classes and whatnot. And I think very little of it will actually matter for you getting a job in the long run. When you go to an industry week, you end up meeting faces, you get the chance to talk to people, you get to network, and you get to, even if it's just one person at a time, like a year or like in your entire time at university, at the very least, when you talk to somebody who's had that experience in the field you're trying to get into, it really teaches you like how much further you have to go a lot of the time. If you just think, you've been getting like B's, A's your entire university life, and you look at the quality of your work, like there's a lot of universities that'll just toss an A at anything, a lot of universities that'll toss a B. But if you showed me like a video and I was like, I'm just gonna give you my honest answer, right? I'm not gonna be like, oh, this is really good. I'm not gonna be like, oh, that's really good just to be nice. I'll just be like, okay, I like what you've done here. I think this is what you could improve on. And that, I think, is one of the more important things, especially also if you're like applying to jobs, like you're showing people resumes and stuff. People tell you what they think. That's really important. And I think if unis don't do that, like I think they're missing out on a really key part of education, especially these days where every market's so competitive. Yeah, I think it's been a really good experience. It's my first time in Nottingham. I really had no idea what to expect. Jacob, one of the tutors here, he just said, hey, we're doing this industry week. I really want you to come along. And I was like, so do you want me to come along so I'll, kind of discourage everyone from going into esports because it's such a crazy space? Or do you want me to come in and actually be a bit more positive and less cynical about it? And he's like, no, you can do whatever you want. And I was like, interesting. And then the last couple of weeks where I've been preparing to sort of give this lecture and coming up with what to do with the students and stuff, I was getting really into it because it, in a sense, it actually really helped me sort of think about, okay, what have I learned in the past few years? I've been working as a full-time producer now for, officially for 2.5 years, but in reality about 4 years. And when you think about everything that's happened in that time and everything that's come up, when you're putting it all to paper and you're like, okay, what do you think is the most important thing to teach students? I think it's a pretty good learning experience for yourself as well. Makes you feel a little bit old, but at the same time, like, it gives you like, okay, this is how far I've gone. And in a way, it also like gives you a perspective of, is this what you really want to do with your life? Would you be happy spending another 4 years here? Would you want to try something different? And it got me really excited because I'd like to see what students think. I think the youth, while sometimes they can be a little bit naive, they always bring a perspective that a lot of people who've been in something for a long time tend to lose sight of. And that was something I was really excited to do. I thought I'd be really nervous talking to like 80 plus students, but I got there and I was like, this is fine, no nerves.